A distant signal appeared on the Empire's long-range scanners, one quiet cycle, and at first no one paid much attention. The outer borders were full of drifting rocks, old mining rigs, and forgotten probes. Most strange readings turned out to be nothing important. But this one was different. The energy spike was sharp, steady, and too strong to be random. It did not look like a natural object, and it did not look like anything the Empire had ever built. The analysts stared at the data for a long time, waiting for the system to correct itself. It never did. The research station received the visual feed next. The first frame showed a dark shape against the stars, too smooth to be natural. The second frame showed details, metal edges, clean lines, and a hull design that did not match anything in the Imperial databases. The system tried to auto-match the structure with the archives, but every attempt came back with the same result. No record found. Usually, this message appeared for pirate scraps or broken drones, but this object was far larger. It had the size of a heavy cruiser and the mass of a deep-range battleship. Yet its engines were silent. No lights, no transmissions. It simply drifted, slowly turning with the faint push of nearby radiation. The lead analyst called the Imperial Center. His voice was calm, but his hands were shaking under the desk. A silent ship with unknown design was rare. A silent ship with that much power was dangerous. Within minutes, the report reached the higher circles, and the order was clear. Send a recon fleet to investigate. The nearest task group moved at once. They were not expecting trouble. The mission was marked as a routine investigation. The officers joked about forgotten merchants and old abandoned warships. But when the fleet arrived near the anomaly, the joking stopped. The unknown vessel was enormous, more detailed than the first images had shown. The hull was matte and dark, absorbing light instead of reflecting it. Strange markings ran across the side straight lines, sharp corners, symbols that did not match any language in the Empire. Some officers thought it looked ancient. Others thought it looked new. No one could agree. What everyone did agree on was one thing. It was not in the archives. It was not in any record from the last 1,000 cycles. It had appeared out of nowhere, drifting like a ghost in open space. The flagship sent the standard greeting signal. They waited. Nothing came back. The unknown ship stayed quiet, like it was listening, but choosing not to answer. The fleet moved closer, keeping a safe distance. Their scanners tried to look inside the hull, but the readings bounced back. Something inside the ship blocked every attempt. It was not a shield. It was something else, something more advanced than anything the Empire had ever used. Even the fleet captain, known for calm decisions, felt a strange unease. The crew whispered among themselves. Maybe it was a relic from an old species. Maybe it was a scout from a new enemy. Maybe it was a lost Imperial experiment. But the more they talked, the more nervous they became. Big things found in deep space rarely meant good news. One of the smaller destroyers moved in for a closer inspection. It followed a slow, careful path, sending constant reports. The crew scanned the unknown ship's surface, pointing out where the metal looked newer, where it looked repaired, and where strange patterns lined the hull. They recorded every detail, preparing to send the data back. Then something changed. The unknown ship stirred, not a sudden movement, not a weapon blast, not a dramatic shift. It simply turned smooth, precise, controlled. Its angle changed by a few degrees, giving the fleet a clear view of a long row of ports along its side. They were not open, but they looked like weapon housing. Too many of them. The destroyer halted. The fleet froze. The flagship ordered a retreat of a few kilometers, but before the ships could move, the unknown vessel reacted again. A pulse of energy rolled through the area, silent, bright, and controlled. Every Imperial scanner went blank. The fleet scrambled to reset systems. The communications officer tried to connect with the destroyer, but the signal crackled and died. The radar operator shouted that the unknown ship had powered several lines along its hull. The energy was too focused, too sharp. Not a warning, not a misfire, a targeted action. The captain tried to reopen a channel, but before his words reached the comm, another shock hit them. This time, the light came faster. Not as a beam, more like a wave. It washed over the fleet, and the ships groaned under the pressure. Shields dropped to half strength, then to a quarter, then to zero. The crew panicked. Their training told them to remain calm, but no one had ever seen technology like this. Shields were the Empire's pride. Nothing brought them down this quickly. Nothing even came close. The destroyer managed to send one final message before vanishing from the display. A frantic voice, broken with static. It moved. It targeted us. It knows exactly what we are. After that, the line went silent. The flagship attempted to pull back, but the unknown ship turned toward them again. This time, it did not fire a wave. It simply watched, its dark hull glowing faintly. It felt like a warning. A simple, silent message. Go away. The captain ordered a tactical retreat. The fleet jumped back to safer space, leaving only one sensor buoy behind. It recorded the unknown ship drifting again, as if nothing had happened. As if a fleet had not just been stripped of its shields with one gesture. When the fleet's report reached the Empire, the reaction was immediate and chaotic. The High Council demanded to know why a massive ship existed without any record. Archivists searched through generations of stored files. Old maps, unpublished reports, forgotten exploration logs, nothing matched. Nothing even came close. It was as if the ship belonged to a civilization that should not exist. Some whispered that the object was a remnant of a lost culture. Others suspected an enemy far more advanced than the Empire had ever faced. Some even suggested the ship was a breakaway Imperial group, hidden for hundreds of years. But every theory failed at the same point. Why was it not in the archives? Every ship, every design, every anomaly had a record. The Empire kept strict documentation. But this ship had none. The Council declared a full alert. More fleets were prepared. Border stations upgraded their defenses. Every officer felt a growing fear, because they all understood the truth. A ship that powerful should not exist without being known. A ship that powerful should not be silent. A ship that powerful should not be drifting so calmly after disabling an entire recon group. The Empire had always believed it knew everything in its territory. Every species, every threat, every object. But now something had appeared that did not fit the pattern. Something old or new, no one knew. Something strong enough to stop a fleet without firing a single shot. The research teams replayed the destroyer's last message again and again. It moved. It targeted us. It knows exactly what we are. That line alone caused more worry than anything else, because it meant the unknown ship was not confused, damaged, or drifting by chance. It was aware, it was watching, and it had chosen to hold back. Empire realized that this was not the start of a normal investigation. This was not a normal discovery. This was the beginning of something far more dangerous and far more personal. Something out there had returned, and whatever it was, it understood the Empire far better than the Empire understood it. When the recon fleet returned with half-broken systems and shaken crews, the Empire expected confusion, maybe fear, but not silence. Yet silence is what greeted them. Every officer looked tense, as if they had seen something they could not explain, even if they tried. Their ships bore the marks of the encounter-burned shield emitters, cracked hull plates, disabled long-range scanners. None of it came from regular weapons. It felt as though the fleet had been hit by something they couldn't see, couldn't predict, and couldn't defend against, the Empire wasted no time. A second, larger group was prepared. This time, the Empire wanted answers. They wanted recordings, samples, anything that proved what had happened near that drifting giant. And they wanted to know how one silent ship had broken their trusted shields in seconds. This second fleet carried more equipment, more specialists, and more caution. No one joked this time. No one relaxed. Every officer understood what had happened to the first group, and none of them wanted to repeat it. But duty meant moving forward, even when fear settled deep in the chest dot. As the second fleet approached the last known coordinates, tension grew. Everyone expected to see the damaged sensor buoy, the broken wrecks, or signs of debris. Instead, the area was calm. Nothing floated nearby. Space looked normal, quiet, empty. And that emptiness made people even more nervous. The unknown ship was gone. The flagship scanned the region again and again, searching for radiation traces, engine trails, or heat signatures. But the results came back blank, as if the massive ship had never been there at all. The commander ordered wide-range sweeps, and the fleet spread out, maintaining careful distance from one another. Hours passed without any hint of the mysterious vessel. Some officers started thinking maybe the earlier fleet had made a mistake. But deep inside, everyone knew they had not imagined anything. The scars on their ships told the truth. Something powerful had been here, and it was not gone. It was hiding. Then one of the patrol cruisers picked up an irregular wave. Not strong, not aggressive, but enough to catch attention. The ship adjusted its course and moved toward the source. The wave repeated steady, rhythmic, like breathing. Not natural. Every ship locked in on that signal. The drifting shape came into view again. The unknown giant rested in the distance, slowly turning the same way the first fleet had described. It looked exactly like the original recording, dark, silent, and unnaturally still. Its hull almost blended with the background, like it wanted to be overlooked. But the fleet was ready. They formed a wide circle around it, keeping their distance, and began their detailed scans. The scanner struggled again. Every wave that touched the unknown vessel bounced back or vanished into the hull. No data leaked through. No temperature readings. No internal maps. Nothing. It felt like scanning a solid block of nothingness. The specialists on board whispered among themselves. How could something this advanced exist without any sign in the archives? How could a ship of this scale be invisible to their strongest scans? Why did it simply wait, unmoving, like it expected them? The flagship sent a greeting message again, using every known diplomatic tone. The ship remained silent. No greeting, no warning, no reaction. Only a slow turn of its massive body, as if acknowledging their presence with a simple movement. A smaller recon vessel moved closer, more careful than the one from the first fleet. Its sensors recorded every detail on the hull, fine scratches, repaired patches, and long lines of markings that looked like writing. But no one recognized the symbols. They were straight, clean, and simple, yet held a strange familiarity. Something about them looked human, but that made no sense. There were no humans here. Not this far from the core worlds. Humanity had left the Imperial territory centuries ago, or so the old records said. Their old journeys were documented and archived. None ever spoke of a ship like this. The recon vessel drifted closer for a final scan, trying not to startle whatever intelligence controlled the giant structure. But the moment its scanning beam touched the hull, the unknown ship reacted. It began to shift. Not fast, not hostile, but purposeful. Lights ran across its sides in patterns that looked like a reply. The recon ship pulled back quickly. The flagship ordered caution. Everyone held their breath. Then the unknown. Giant-powered something inside its core. It didn't fire a weapon. It didn't launch a drone. It simply sent out a soft pulse. A single wave. It passed through every ship in the fleet. It didn't feel harmful, but it wasn't harmless either. The wave gently pushed through electronics, touching every system like invisible fingers, checking the strength of each component. And then, one by one, the ships felt it. Their engines flickered, their lights dimmed, their shields dropped halfway. The flagship immediately ordered a retreat. The fleet backed away, all ships maintaining a perfect formation despite the shaking energy levels. But the unknown ship did not chase. It only watched. The specialists tried to read the frequency of the pulse. Their faces turned pale. The wave wasn't random. It wasn't even meant as an attack. It was a scan. The unknown ship was studying them. The fleet regrouped at a safer distance, but the silence around them was louder than the alarms. The commander tried sending peaceful messages again. The unknown giant did not answer. It simply drifted, slowly turning its side toward the fleet. The specialists realized something unsettling. The ship was positioning itself to face them more clearly. The flagship sent a final warning. If the unknown vessel didn't identify itself, the Empire would consider it a threat. They waited for a response, hoping the ship would finally speak. But instead of speaking, the unknown vessel moved in a calm, chilling manner. It activated several long rows along its hull. The shapes looked like launch bays or weapon ports. Dozens of them. The Empire's fleet panicked. Missile crews prepared defenses. Shield techs scrambled to recharge systems. Officers shouted warnings. But before anyone could do anything, before any defensive move was launched, the unknown ship did something none of them expected. It shut down again. The lights faded. The energy signatures vanished. The ship returned to silent drifting. As if nothing had happened. As if the activation had been a test. A test to see how the Empire reacted under pressure. The crew felt a cold realization. It wasn't trying to fight. It wasn't trying to hide. It wasn't even trying to negotiate. It was observing. Studying. Understanding them piece by piece. The commander ordered a slow retreat. The fleet began pulling back, not wanting to provoke another pulse. The unknown ship made no move to stop them. It simply watched as the Empire's largest ships fled. Once the fleet retreated to a safe checkpoint, the message was sent to the capital. The Empire debated for hours, some insisting it was an ancient relic, others fearing a new enemy. But the truth was simple and terrifying. That ship was not lost. It was not broken. It was not drifting by accident. It was active. It was aware. And it had decided when to react and when not to. The Empire had always believed they controlled their territory, that nothing new could surprise them. But this single vessel had moved with a confidence no one expected. It had allowed the fleet to leave. It had allowed them to scan. It had allowed them to fear. And now everyone wondered the same question. If it could disable a fleet without effort, what would happen if it ever decided to attack for real? When the report from the Second Fleet reached the Imperial capital, the entire atmosphere inside the High Council chamber changed. People who normally spoke with authority now whispered like they were afraid of being overheard by something unseen. The unknown ship had not attacked them. It had not chased them. It had not spoken a single word. But somehow, that made the situation far more frightening. A silent enemy was always more dangerous than a loud one. The Council demanded every detail, every moment, every recording. Officers described the slow drift of the massive ship, the faint glow along its hull, and the strange markings that reminded some of old human writing. The Council repeated that part again and again. Human-like markings? Impossible, they said. Humans had left the Imperial sectors long ago. Their few early-era ships had nothing close to this level of design. And even if a forgotten human expedition had somehow survived, there was no way they could build something that overpowered a modern fleet. But nothing in the recordings could be ignored. The unknown ship reacted to them with perfect precision. The energy pulse it sent wasn't wild or random. It was controlled, careful, almost gentle. It seemed to be checking them, measuring them, learning from them. The more the council reviewed the reports, the more their fear grew. If the ship had wanted to destroy the fleets, it could have done so easily. Instead, it simply watched them break under its presence. The council ordered complete secrecy. No talk, no public report, no open record. If news of this spread, people would panic. Species across the empire would wonder if their military could no longer protect them. And if fear spread across systems, the empire would weaken itself before any enemy even made a move. But even with secrecy, officers were nervous. Diplomats avoided eye contact. Archivists triple-checked old files. Even though they knew the truth, nothing in the archives matched that ship. For the first time in decades, the empire knew fear. Meanwhile, the sensor stations near the border watched constantly. Every tiny signal was checked twice. Every drifting rock was scanned. No one wanted to be the first to miss something important. No one wanted to be responsible for the empire being caught off guard again. But despite all the fear, the unknown ship remained in place, drifting slowly like a deep shadow across the stars. It never crossed the border. It never sent a message. It never moved faster than a slow, quiet turn. But its calmness only made things worse. The empire was used to enemies who shouted, threatened, and demanded. A silent giant with impossible power was something they had no experience dealing with. Inside the capital, SPECIAL, ISTs began debating the true nature of the vessel. One group believed it was an ancient relic, created by a species long gone. Maybe it had awakened after thousands of years and didn't understand modern ships. But that idea disappeared quickly. The way the ship reacted was too intelligent, too precise, too aware. Another group believed it came from outside their known galaxy. A traveler from places beyond their maps, carrying technology far stronger than anything inside the empire. But even that theory didn't explain the human-like markings on the hull. The third group, the smallest but the most persistent, shared a dangerous idea. What if it is human in origin? No one liked hearing that. Humans were gone. Their early explorers vanished without leaving much behind. Their old colonies disappeared from records. But even so, some parts of humanity were known to be unpredictable. If even a single expedition had survived somewhere in the dark of space, far from imperial help, what would they have become? What kind of technology would they develop if they had struggled alone, far from any known star? But these were only theories. No one wanted to believe humans could return like this. If they did, why now? And why like this? While the council debated, the empire's military faced a larger problem. How do you defend a border from something you cannot understand, cannot communicate with, and cannot match in strength? Even the largest imperial warship would not survive long under the energy pulse that destroyed the recon fleet's shields. Some officers suggested preparing the super dreadnoughts, the empire's heaviest ships, but others argued that bringing out their strongest weapons might look hostile. And if the unknown ship saw it as a threat, the results could be catastrophic. For the first time in generations, the empire hesitated. Fear guided every decision, but fear also made them curious. The council ordered a deep search through ancient archives, files older than official history. Documents written before the empire even spread across the stars. They hoped to find something, anything, about lost human fleets. Old stories, unconfirmed sightings, myths, rumors. Even a small detail could help them understand what they were dealing with. Archivists worked day and night. Most files contained nothing useful. But one strange document stood out. It listed an ancient human expedition that vanished in deep space, far beyond the borders known today. The file claimed the expedition sent a final fragment of a message before disappearing forever. The message warned about a threat, not a natural one, not an enemy, but a warning about themselves. The expedition wrote, "We go to build what they fear. If we succeed, we will not return." No one knew what that meant. No one knew what they built, or where they went, or if they survived. And the file was incomplete, damaged by time. But the unknown giant's markings looked like the same style of writing from that era. The council could not ignore the possibility. What if the ship came from that lost expedition? What if the humans had built something far beyond imperial understanding? What if they had grown stronger, hidden for centuries, and returned without warning? Even the idea made the council uneasy. Humanity was known for determination, creativity, and an ability to survive impossible odds. If they had centuries alone to build and evolve, who knew what they could become? The Empire began to feel something they had not felt in a long time: vulnerability. Meanwhile, the border stations kept watching the unknown vessel. It didn't move closer, but it didn't leave either. It was like a silent question hanging in space. Every call the Empire sent received no answer. Every warning, every scan, every diplomatic wave ignored. One officer said it best: "It's not waiting for us. It's watching us." Those words spread quietly across the military. Each day that passed without action made the Empire more anxious. The absence of movement felt more threatening than an attack. It was clear now that the unknown ship had intelligence, purpose, patience. It reacted only when provoked. It responded only to specific triggers. It had a reason for being here. The real question, the question no one wanted to say out loud, was simple. If the ship was watching them, what was it waiting for? Some thought it was looking for someone. Others feared it was measuring the Empire's strength, collecting information for a larger force waiting elsewhere. A few believed it sought something, lost long ago, something the Empire did not know it possessed. But the most unsettling idea was that the ship wasn't reacting to the Empire at all. Maybe this was simply the first step. Maybe something far bigger was coming. By the end of the third cycle, the Empire's highest leaders realized something important. This was not just a strange encounter. This was not an accident. This was not a lost relic drifting through space. This was the beginning of something that could change everything they knew about power, history, and control. And the most frightening part wasn't the ship's strength. It was the simple, silent feeling that whatever controlled that vessel was only getting started. The unknown ship stayed near the border for days, maybe because it wanted to, or maybe because it was waiting for something the Empire couldn't understand. But whatever the reason, its presence changed the mood of every station, ship, and officer in the region. Even the calmest people felt uneasy whenever the giant vessel appeared on their screens. It didn't communicate. It didn't drift away. It didn't show clear signs of threat. But it also didn't behave like anything natural. It moved too smoothly, too quietly, too deliberately. It was like a giant eye, open and watching. One night cycle, the border stations received a short alert. The unknown ship had shifted again, but this time it wasn't a slow turn. It was a purposeful repositioning. It angled itself toward a distant region of space, not toward the Empire. It seemed to be facing something far beyond visible range. The shift was so precise that the station specialists became confused. Why would a ship with no visible crew, no signals, and no known purpose suddenly change direction with such accuracy? The specialists watched the readings over and over again. Some believed it was preparing for something. Others thought it detected something the Empire couldn't pick up. No one felt comfortable with either explanation. The Empire reacted fast. 3 new fleets were moved closer to the border carefully, quietly, without crossing any lines that could trigger another strange pulse. These fleets weren't small. They were some of the Empire's most respected groups, armed with strong weapons and advanced shields. But even these ships carried doubt. If a single pulse could shatter shields, then raw firepower didn't matter. Even though they were armed, the fleets kept a respectful distance from the unknown vessel. They observed. They waited. They moved as little as possible. No one wanted to provoke something they couldn't understand. Meanwhile, deep inside the capital, the council was in chaos. Arguments lasted hours. Every theory clashed with another. Some wanted to open negotiations using old human languages, hoping the ship would recognize something. Others insisted might only respond to a threat. But the most careful minds warned everyone that a direct attack would be a mistake. If the ship truly had enough power to crush a fleet, then attacking it would not lead to victory. It would lead to destruction. More specialists were called in, including historians. They studied old human logs again, comparing the hull markings on the unknown ship with forgotten scripts. One historian pointed out a specific symbol that matched an old expedition record. The symbol had appeared on documents from the lost human group that left Imperial space many generations ago. The match wasn't perfect, but it was too close to ignore. This small clue created a new question. Had humans really disappeared? Or had they simply moved farther than anyone imagined? While these debates continued, something unexpected happened at the border. A long-range sensor picked up a faint movement far behind the unknown ship. It wasn't close. It wasn't approaching fast. But it was large. Large enough to cause confusion. At first, the signal was too weak to identify. The officers watched as the reading slowly grew stronger. It didn't match any Imperial model. It didn't match any known enemy ships. It didn't match any merchant patterns. The reading seemed unfamiliar. This caused immediate panic. If a second unknown ship appeared, the situation would explode. The Empire had struggled with one mysterious vessel. 2 would be impossible to control. The border fleets tightened their formations. Every station prepared for emergency signals. The Council demanded every second of the sensor data. And then, the unknown ship reacted. The giant vessel slowly turned, now fully facing the region where the new signal was coming from. Its hull lit up in quiet patterns, not aggressive, but focused. It was clear that this was not random. The ship was responding to that distant movement. It wasn't watching the Empire anymore. It was watching something else. This change terrified the Empire more than the pulses had. If the unknown ship feared something or expected something to arrive, then whatever was coming was likely more dangerous than anything they had imagined. Time passed slowly. The second signal grew stronger, but stayed far. It didn't move toward the Empire. It didn't move toward the unknown ship. It simply existed steady, waiting, calm, almost like a presence lurking in the distance. The Council ordered the fleets to hold position. No one was to attack. No one was to send a signal. They had learned enough about the unknown ship to know that sudden actions triggered responses. They couldn't risk a misunderstanding, especially now. As the unknown vessel faced the distant source, something subtle happened. The Empire's scanners detected a tiny surge inside the ship. It wasn't a weapon. It wasn't an engine. It was a broadcast. It had sent something out, but the Empire systems couldn't decode it. The wave passed through their sensors, like it wasn't meant for them. It must have been a message. But to who? Or to what? The unknown ship stayed still after that. Not passive, but ready. Prepared for a response from the distant region. The Empire didn't need an explanation. They understood the feeling. This looked like anticipation, like waiting for an answer. Inside the capital, fear spread through the highest ranks. They had originally feared the unknown ship, but now, seeing it prepare for something else, they began fearing what might be on the other side of those distant readings. If the unknown vessel was indeed human in origin, then what had they faced during all these years of absence? What kind of enemy had shaped them? What kind of force required a ship of this scale? No one wanted to imagine it out at the border. The fleets observed the giant quietly. Even from a distance, the ship radiated unease. It held a kind of calm confidence that made every Imperial officer feel small. It didn't react to threats. It didn't react to warnings. It only reacted when it sensed something meaningful. And now, something meaningful was happening. Hours passed. Then cycles. The faint, distant signal gradually faded. Not because it moved away, but because it simply stopped. It was as if it had chosen to hide again. Or maybe it was never meant for the Empire to see. The unknown ship slowly dimmed its hull lights, returning to its quiet drifting state. But this only made the Empire more worried. The ship's calmness after the distant signal vanished felt unnatural, almost like disappointment. Eventually, the border specialists noticed that the unknown vessel had shifted slightly closer to the Imperial side. Not enough to cross the line, but enough to send a message. It wasn't leaving Dot. It wasn't done Dot. It still had a purpose in this region. The Council tried sending messages again, carefully using slow, low-frequency signals. No response. Then they tried old patterns from human history. Still nothing. It seemed the ship had no interest in talking to them. It had interest in something else entirely. This led to a heavy realization inside. The Empire. Maybe the ship wasn't here because of them. Maybe they were not the target. Maybe they were simply in the way. This thought chilled every person who heard it. Being ignored by a powerful force was sometimes more frightening than being targeted. By the end of the fourth cycle, the Empire understood one thing clearly. The unknown ship was not lost, not confused, and not alone. It was part of something larger, something hidden, patient, and extremely powerful. And whatever it was preparing for had not happened yet. The Galactic Empire in complete confusion. Every officer, every strategist, and every analyst sent reports that made no sense. The unknown object, the one that destroyed the fleet near the Silent World, was now moving again. It was not rushing toward Imperial territory, but it was not retreating either. It simply drifted in a direction nobody could understand, as if following some path only it could see. The Empire tried to guess its next move, but their predictions were always wrong. In the control chamber of the Imperial Core Station, the senior advisors gathered again. Their screens showed a single dot glowing at the edge of the system. It moved with no pattern, no rhythm, and no recognizable signature. Some people whispered it was alive. Others said was controlled by something far beyond their understanding. All they knew was that nothing in their long archives held any clue about it. Meanwhile, the humans aboard the research vessel watched the same dot on their own small screens. They had grown quiet over the last few hours. The earlier excitement of discovering something powerful had faded, replaced by something heavier. A sense of responsibility. A sense of something bigger than themselves. They did not know if the object meant danger or safety, but they all felt that something important was unfolding. The team leader looked around at the group. The person's voice was calm but thoughtful. They said they needed to decide what to do next, because the Empire was surely preparing for another confrontation. If the Empire attacked again, without understanding the object, the results could be far worse than before. And if the object reacted the same way, entire fleets could vanish in moments. It was clear that the humans had to act. Before things escalated even more. so they reached out through the emergency communication channels. These lines were normally reserved for disasters, planetary crashes, evacuation alerts, or solar storms, but this situation clearly counted as extraordinary. The message carried a simple request: a meeting. Not a battle. Not an exchange of threats. A peaceful meeting between humans and Imperial leaders to discuss what the object was, what it might want, and how they could avoid more destruction. The Galactic Empire was shocked to receive the message. They expected humans to hide, to flee, or to prepare for revenge. Instead, the humans asked to talk. Some Empire members reacted with suspicion. Why would a group so far outside their borders want to negotiate? Others said it was the first rational action in the entire situation. If nothing in the archive explained the object, then someone else must have the missing pieces. If that someone was human, they needed to hear it. Reluctantly, the Empire agreed to a secure, neutral meeting point. A small observation station floating between two quiet moons. It was used mainly by astronomers, not diplomats, but it was safe and peaceful. There were no weapons there, no warships, just a simple hall and a wide window facing the stars. Both sides agreed to bring only small teams with no harmful devices. When the humans arrived, they entered with calm expressions. They were not frightened, but they were careful. They did not know if the Empire trusted them at all. The Empire's representatives waited at the other end of the hall. They spoke first, demanding to know who controlled the object and why it had attacked their fleet. The humans explained slowly and clearly that they did not control it. They didn't know if anyone controlled it. They had only discovered it recently while doing deep space research. The Empire found this impossible to believe at first. They argued that no unregistered technology could be so advanced, so powerful, and so precise. The humans replied that they had been studying the object's readings closely. It did not act like a weapon. Its movements were not planned like a ship. Instead, it behaved almost like something that was waking up, like something that had been silent for a very long time and was now reacting to contact. They said they believed it responded to energy signatures that felt threatening. The Empire teams exchanged uneasy looks. That meant their own battlecruiser had likely been interpreted as a threat. When the cruiser locked targeting systems on the object may have responded instinctively. This idea terrified them. They were not fighting an enemy with strategies. They might be facing something that reacted automatically, like a shield or ancient guardian. The humans then spoke about the final piece of information they had discovered in their research data. They had found ancient cosmic patterns around the silent world, traces of something that existed long before the Empire. Something that appeared briefly in old starwave recordings, then vanished. They believed the object was linked to that ancient force, but they did not know how. When the Empire asked if it was connected to humans, the humans answered no. They were as surprised as the Empire dot after many hours of speaking. A slow, careful trust began forming in the room. Not a strong one, but enough to keep both sides away from fear. Finally, the Empire asked the question they had been avoiding all night. What should they do now? The humans paused before answering. They said they should observe, not attack. They should avoid sending armed ships. They should reduce their energy outputs near the object. They should keep distance, but monitor it gently. They explained that humans had seen the object shift behavior when approached calmly. It brightened, then dimmed, without reacting violently. That meant it was not looking for conflict. Some of the Empire officials nodded. Others remained doubtful. But all agreed that attacking again without understanding would be too dangerous. They decided to step back for now. The object was moving slowly through empty space anyway, not targeting their world's dot. As both sides prepared to leave, something unexpected happened. A sudden alert flashed across every device in the hall. Both human and Empire screens displayed the same message. The object had changed direction again. This time, it was heading toward a region of stars that neither side visited often. An untouched space full of quiet dust clouds and drifting rocks. The hall grew silent. The Empire asked if this was a warning. The humans checked their data carefully. They said no, it didn't look like a threat. It looked more like the object was following something. A signal? A memory? A path from long ago? Nobody could tell yet. The meeting ended with a new agreement. Humans and the Empire would work together. They would share data. They would watch the object from a distance. And if it turned toward any inhabited world, they would regroup and decide what to do. For the first time, the two groups shook hands, not as enemies, but as uncertain partners facing something beyond both of them. As the human team traveled back to their vessel, they stared out at the stars. They were tired but relieved. They had prevented a second disaster, maybe even something worse. But deep inside, they knew the mystery was far from over. The object was moving with purpose, and wherever it was heading, something awaited. On the Empire's side, leaders slowly understood a truth they had ignored for generations. Their archives were powerful, their history long, but not complete. There were things older than them, things hidden in the quiet corners of the galaxy, things that were not in any record. And now one of those things was awake again. The final image of the object drifted across both human and Empire screens. A cold, silent shape glowing faintly as it passed through a dust cloud. No one knew what it wanted. No one knew why it had returned. But one thing was very clear to every person watching. It was powerful. It was ancient. And it was not in anyone's archives. The galaxy was entering a new chapter. And both humans and the Empire could only watch, wait, and hope that whatever came next would not be beyond their ability to handle. For now, they could only prepare, stay alert, and stick together in the face of a mystery far bigger than either of them had ever imagined.